It was supposed to be the happiest night of her life. Lina Rossi, daughter of Milan's most respected architect, was finally getting engaged. The chandeliers sparkled above the ballroom, violins whispered through the air, and her mother's smile glowed with pride. Every detail was perfect, except for the way Lina's heart felt strangely hollow. Her fiancé Daniel was kind, gentle, and everything her parents wanted. But as she stood beneath the soft golden lights, accepting congratulations from strangers, a small voice inside her kept asking, "Is this really my forever?" Then the doors opened, and the room went silent. He walked in like a storm, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black tailored suit that didn't need to prove anything. His presence filled the space before his voice ever could. People stepped back instinctively, like the air itself had changed. Lina froze. It had been 3 years since she'd last seen him. 3 years since the night he'd vanished. Without a word, without a reason. Leaving behind only the echo of promises he'd made under moonlight. Lorenzo De Luca. The name that made men lower their voices in cafes and women glance twice before denying it meant something to them. The man every headline whispered about. The Mafia boss of Milan. And now, he was standing in her engagement party. The orchestra stopped. Daniel's smile faltered, and every pair of eyes turned to the intruder who looked like sin wrapped in silk. Lorenzo's gaze found hers instantly. Not a flicker of hesitation, not a hint of apology, just a calm, steady certainty. The kind that only came from a man who had already decided how this night would end. He walked through the stunned crowd, his shoes echoing sharply against the marble. When he reached her, he didn't bow, didn't greet, didn't ask. He simply said, in that low, dangerous tone she remembered all too well, "She's already mine." Gasps rippled through the hall. Daniel stepped forward, voice trembling with disbelief. "Who the hell are you?" Lorenzo turned his head slowly, eyes dark and steady. Someone who doesn't repeat himself. And before anyone could stop him, he reached for Lina's hand. Her heart thundered. The world blurred, the chandeliers, the whispers, the fear, all melting into the familiar pull of his touch. It wasn't supposed to happen. Not again. Not after everything. But as his fingers closed around hers, the truth hit her harder than any promise ever could. She never stopped loving him. Not for a single day. And that night, the night meant to mark her beginning with someone else, became the night her past came crashing back. Wearing a black suit and a look that said, "You were never free from me." The night ended in chaos. Guests shouted, cameras flashed, and Lina's name became the headline she'd never wanted. Architect's daughter abducted by Milan's Mafia boss. But the truth wasn't that simple. He didn't drag her away. She followed, even if her heart didn't understand why. The car door slammed, sealing her between silence and the steady hum of rain. Lorenzo sat beside her, jaw clenched, gaze fixed on the wet road ahead. His presence filled the space like thunder before a storm. "Say something," she whispered. Her voice trembled, though not from fear. 3 years of unanswered questions sat heavy in her chest. He didn't look at her. "I told you," he said quietly. "You were never his." Her heart twisted. "You don't get to say that after disappearing, after leaving me." The words hit him harder than she expected. His grip tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles pale against the black leather. "I left," he said finally, voice low, "because staying would have gotten you killed." Lina turned toward him, rain streaking across the window beside her. His reflection in the glass looked like a ghost. The man she'd loved, shadowed by everything he'd become. "You think this," she whispered, gesturing between them, "is safer?" He stopped the car suddenly on a quiet road overlooking Lake Como. The headlights spilled gold over the rain-soaked trees. And for a moment, the world felt suspended. Just the two of them, the night, and the echoes of what once was. He turned toward her, eyes dark and haunted. "I think," he said, voice breaking through the rain, "that I've spent every night imagining someone else holding your hand. And I couldn't breathe anymore." Her breath caught. For years she'd tried to hate him, to bury every memory, every touch. But hearing those words, It all came flooding back, the way he'd held her like the world was ending, the way his silence had never felt like absence, but unfinished love. "Lorenzo," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You can't just walk into my life again and—" He leaned closer, eyes locked on hers. "Then tell me to leave," he murmured. "Right now. Tell me to walk away, and I will." The rain fell harder, drumming against the roof like a heartbeat. She looked at him. The danger, the power, the man she once trusted more than anyone. And despite everything, her silence said what her heart already knew. She didn't tell him to go. Lorenzo's hand brushed hers, cautious, trembling, reverent. For a man who could command armies, his touch was a confession of weakness. In that moment, words didn't matter. The storm outside blurred the city lights, and all that remained was the quiet truth between them. That love, no matter how forbidden, never really dies. As the car drove off into the rain, Lena realized she wasn't sure where he was taking her. All she knew was that she didn't want him to let go again. Morning came slowly, filtered through the tall windows of a villa perched above Lake Como. The soft sunlight spilled over polished marble floors, reflecting on the antique furniture and pastel curtains that swayed gently in the breeze. Lena woke in a plush guest room, the scent of fresh linen and subtle vanilla filling the air. She sat up, heart still racing from the night before. Memories of the engagement party flooding back. The shocked faces, the whispers, the moment he had declared, "She's already mine." The door opened quietly. He stepped in. Lorenzo De Luca. No suit this time. Just a fitted black shirt and dark trousers. Hair still slightly damp from the rain. Even in the calm of morning, he radiated authority and danger, yet something softened in the warm light. "Morning," he said, voice low, almost gentle. Lena didn't answer at first, her eyes scanning the room, the expensive furniture, the view of the lake, the subtle signs that this was a safe place. Not a prison, but a fortress. "You slept well?" he asked carefully, as if testing boundaries. "I managed," she replied, her voice small. She didn't know why her chest tightened at his proximity, why her mind kept replaying his hand brushing hers in the car. The intensity of his gaze. He moved closer, stopping a few feet away, careful not to crowd her. "You don't have to be afraid," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." Lena met his eyes, searching for the man behind the Mafia boss, the man who had haunted her dreams for 3 years. "And you won't?" she asked, voice trembling. "I promise," he said. "I only want to protect you. Always." For a long moment, silence stretched between them, heavy, charged, almost unbearable. She remembered every time she had imagined this reunion, but reality was sharper, stranger, and more intoxicating than any fantasy. Slowly, Lorenzo stepped closer. He didn't touch her, not yet, but his presence pressed into her awareness like gravity. "I brought you here," he said, "because I can't let you go." "Not now, not ever." Lena swallowed hard. Her heart was pounding, emotions clashing violently, relief, fear, longing. She wanted to push him away, to scream that she belonged to someone else, but deep down, she knew she had never truly stopped loving him. She finally found her voice, whispering, "Why now?" After everything, his gaze softened, a rare vulnerability shining through the intensity. "Because I realized too late that losing you was never an option. You were always mine, Lena, and now I'm not letting anyone else claim you." Outside, the lake sparkled in the morning sun, calm and serene, a stark contrast to the storm that had brought them here. And in that quiet moment, Lena understood the truth. For better or worse, her heart had always been his. The safe house wasn't just a place of protection. It was the beginning of a slow, impossible, and undeniable journey back to each other. The villa was quiet, but the tension in the air was palpable. Lena sat on a soft armchair, her fingers intertwined, trying to steady her racing heart. Every shadow seemed to carry the weight of the night before. Every memory of his touch, his words, the way he had claimed her in front of everyone. Lorenzo moved through the room with deliberate calm, his presence impossible to ignore. He poured himself a glass of water, then paused, glancing at her from the corner of his eye. "You don't trust me," he said quietly. Lena flinched. She hadn't realized she was holding her breath. I just don't understand," she admitted. "Why now? Why drag me into this chaos? My life was normal. And then you appeared like a storm." He stepped closer, and the tension in the room thickened. The casual danger that had always surrounded him clung to his every movement. "You think I came for chaos," he murmured, his voice low, almost teasing. "But chaos is nothing compared to losing you again." Her heart stuttered. That old pull, magnetic, terrifying, irresistible, drew her gaze back to him. His brown eyes, dark and commanding, held a softness that only she could see. And yet, she reminded herself this was Lorenzo De Luca, a man who lived in shadows, in power, in fear, not in love. "I'm not yours to claim," she whispered, voice trembling. He stopped, standing just a few feet away. For the first time, he seemed less a boss, and more a man stripped bare, vulnerable under the morning light. "You were never mine to give away," he admitted, almost painfully. "But I'll fight for you. I always have. And now, I won't lose you again." The words hit her harder than any action could. Her pulse raced, her lips parted, and for a moment all the walls she had built around herself threatened to crumble. "Lorenzo." He held up a hand, stopping her before she could speak. His expression softened. A rare, fleeting vulnerability she had only glimpsed in memories she had tried to forget. "Shh," he whispered. "You don't have to say anything. Just feel it. Everything I am, everything I've been, it's all for you." Her chest tightened, the weight of unspoken words pressing on her heart. She wanted to resist, to remind herself of everything she thought she knew, that she had a life outside of him, outside of this dangerous world. But the truth was undeniable. She felt herself slipping into the gravity of him, the inevitability of their connection. Lorenzo took a step closer, closing the distance between them. The tension, sharp, electric, wrapped around them like a living thing. His presence was both a threat and a comfort, and Lena realized with quiet horror and thrill that she had never stopped falling for him. Outside, the morning sun glinted on the lake, serene and calm. Inside, hearts raced and walls fell. Quietly, irresistibly, under the pull of a love that had never truly faded. The villa was quiet, but silence never meant peace. Lena wandered toward the large window overlooking Lake Como, her hands pressed to the glass, tracing the raindrops as if they could wash away the chaos swirling in her mind. Lorenzo remained in the room, leaning against the doorway, arms crossed, his gaze fixed on her profile. He had been watching her for hours, trying to find the right words, the right moment, but words were dangerous as the world he lived in. Finally he spoke. "You deserve to know the truth," he said, voice low but steady. "About me, about everything I am." Lena turned slowly, wary but curious. Her heart ached, a mix of fear and anticipation. "You've already scared me more than I thought possible," she said, voice trembling. "And now, you want to tell me more?" He stepped closer, taking the space between them seriously. "I didn't leave you because I didn't care," he admitted. "I left because being with me would have put you in danger. My world, it's not forgiving. People I trust, people I command, they kill without hesitation, and I couldn't risk you being a part of that." Lena's breath caught. She had always known he was dangerous. The rumors, the whispers, the fear he inspired in the city were impossible to ignore. Yet hearing him say it, feeling the weight of his confession, made it real in a way she hadn't imagined. "You think this life of yours makes me afraid of you," she whispered, taking a tentative step closer. "But it's not fear, it's..." She faltered, unsure how to articulate the storm inside her. "It's everything. And yet, I can't stop caring." A flicker of a smile touched his lips. Almost tender, almost human. "I was afraid you'd leave," he confessed. "Afraid that once you saw the truth, you'd run. And maybe I was right to worry. But seeing you here, not running, it's the most terrifying and exhilarating thing I've ever felt." For a moment, they just stood there. The lake outside shimmering under the morning sun, the villa quiet, and the world paused. Lena could feel the pull of him again, like gravity itself had shifted toward Lorenzo. She wanted to resist, wanted to remind herself of normalcy, of safety. But his presence, his vulnerability, drew her closer than ever. "Lorenzo, if I'm with you," she said softly, eyes locking on his, "I'll have to accept all of it. The danger, the fear, even the enemies. Can you promise me that?" He closed the distance, hand reaching for hers, thumb brushing her knuckles. His brown eyes, intense yet gentle, met hers fully. "I can't promise the world will be safe," he said quietly, "but I can promise I'll always fight to keep you in it, and I'll never let go." The room seemed to exhale with them, danger and tenderness intertwined, and Lena realized the truth she had been trying to deny for years. Loving Lorenzo De Luca was inevitable, terrifying, and completely worth it. Outside, Lake Como sparkled like liquid silver. Inside, hearts raced, secrets unfolded, and a slow-burning love deepened, unbreakable and real. Night had settled over the villa like a velvet cloak, the lights of Lake Como twinkling faintly in the distance. The rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and cool, carrying the faint scent of wet earth and blooming jasmine from the gardens below. Lena sat on the edge of a plush sofa in the villa's private lounge, wrapped in a soft cashmere shawl. Her thoughts raced. Daniel's party, the chaos, and above all, Lorenzo. The man who had re-entered her life like a force of nature, claiming everything she thought she understood about love and safety. The door opened quietly, and he stepped in, silent but commanding. He didn't speak immediately. Instead, he let his presence fill the room, the same magnetic aura she remembered from years ago, even now. The quiet authority of his gaze made her heart flutter and her pulse quicken. "You should rest," he said softly, voice a low rumble that seemed to resonate inside her chest. "It's been a long night." She shook her head gently. I can't sleep yet." He studied her for a moment, eyes dark but not harsh, a flicker of concern crossing his sharp features. Slowly, he moved closer, his steps deliberate, measured, every inch commanding yet careful, aware of her vulnerability. "Then stay with me," he said finally, almost a whisper. "I won't let anything happen to you." Lena's breath caught. His words were simple, but they carried all the weight of his world. Danger, power, and an undeniable devotion. She wanted to protest, wanted to tell him she didn't need protection, but the pull of him was irresistible. He gestured toward the grand bedroom, a private sanctuary within the villa. The soft white lighting cast gentle shadows across the marble floors, pastel walls, and carefully placed decor. Everything felt safe here, a stark contrast to the life he led outside these walls. Sitting beside her on the sofa, he offered a quiet hand. Tentatively, she took it, their fingers entwining naturally. The warmth of his touch spread through her like fire and comfort at once. "You have to know," he murmured, voice trembling ever so slightly. "I've spent years wanting you, loving you in silence, and I won't waste another second." She looked up at him, eyes wide, heart pounding. "Lorenzo," he leaned closer, careful, patient, letting the tension stretch between them. Then softly, almost reverently, his forehead rested against hers. The world outside, the power, the fear, the enemies, faded. Only the two of them remained, their hearts speaking the truth words could not. For the first time since his return, Lena allowed herself to believe, to hope, to feel. That night, wrapped in the quiet of the villa, beneath the soft glow of white light, love found its way back. Tender, slow, and inevitable, and Lena realized with a mixture of fear and joy that she had never stopped belonging to him, and he had never stopped belonging to her. The villa was silent, save for the faint ticking of a gilded clock in the lounge. Lena and Lorenzo sat opposite each other, the soft white light highlighting the lines of his face, the sharp jaw, the dark eyes, the subtle weariness that power had carved into him. He studied her quietly, as if weighing the right moment to speak, the right words to reveal what he had kept locked away for so long. Lena's heart thumped, a mix of anticipation and fear. She knew from experience that when Lorenzo chose to speak, it was never just small talk. Finally, he leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, gaze fixed on hers. "There are things you need to understand about me," he said quietly. "About why I left, and why I returned." Lena swallowed hard, sensing the weight behind his words. "I'm listening," she whispered, bracing herself for what was to come. He took a deep breath. "I come from a world you've only glimpsed, one of power, blood, and impossible choices. Every decision I've made, every life I've taken, every ally I've betrayed, it was always to survive, to protect what mattered. And for a long time I didn't realize what mattered the most was you." Her eyes widened. "You think I could understand that?" "I don't expect you to," he admitted, voice low, almost breaking. "But you need to know the truth. I left because being near me would have been dangerous. My enemies are relentless, and I couldn't bear the thought of you caught in the crossfire. Leaving you was the hardest choice I've ever made, but it was the only one that could keep you alive." Lena's throat tightened. She had spent years imagining why he disappeared, constructing excuses and lies to shield herself from heartbreak. And yet, hearing him now, the truth, raw and unvarnished, cut deeper than any lie ever could. "You left. Because of me?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Yes," he said simply, eyes locking on hers. "And returning was the only way I could make things right. I know I can't erase the past, but I can promise you this. I will never let anything happen to you again. You are mine in ways I cannot explain, and I will spend every day proving it." Tears pricked at Lena's eyes. The man before her was terrifying and powerful, yet profoundly human, vulnerable, loving, dangerous and devoted all at once. I don't know if I can fully trust you yet," she admitted, voice soft. "But I want to try." A small, almost shy smile tugged at Lorenzo's lips, a rare, unguarded moment. He reached across, taking her hand gently, his thumb brushing her knuckles in a quiet, reverent gesture. "That's all I ask," he said. "Just try, and give me the chance to prove that I've never stopped loving you." Lena's heart swelled, her chest aching with a mix of fear and hope. She had spent so long running from the past, from him, from what she felt. But now, with his hand in hers and his gaze unwavering, she realized the truth she had buried all along. Her heart had always known where it belonged. Outside, the sun dipped behind the lake, casting a golden glow that mingled with the soft white light of the villa. Inside, hearts bled truth and tenderness, and a slow-burning love deepened. Unshakable, undeniable, and finally, unafraid. The sun had barely risen over Lake Como, painting the villa in soft pastel hues. Lena moved quietly through the corridors, still wrapped in the intimacy of last night's confessions. Yet even in this serene morning, unease lingered, a shadow she couldn't shake. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You are being watched." "Leave the villa now!" Her pulse spiked. She looked up at Lorenzo, who was calmly sipping his espresso across the room. Calm, but not unaware. He had always known when danger was near, and she realized with a mixture of fear and awe that he had already seen this coming. Lorenzo. Her voice trembled, and the tremor wasn't entirely from the message. "What does this mean?" He stood, eyes darkening, jaw tight. The casual elegance of the morning vanished, replaced by the raw, commanding presence she knew all too well. "It means," he said, voice low and steady, "that the life I tried to protect you from is knocking at our door." Lena felt a cold shiver. She had accepted his love, his protection, the impossible pull between them. But now, reality pressed in. The world he inhabited was ruthless, unyielding, and deadly, and she was caught in it. "We need to leave," he said abruptly, taking her hand. "Now, but the villa?" she asked, panic rising. "It's supposed to be safe." He shook his head, eyes locking on hers. "Safe is an illusion. I can make it close enough for now. But this world, it doesn't forgive. And you, Lena, are too precious to risk. As they moved toward the sleek black car waiting in the driveway, Lena realized she had never seen this side of him, the one that wasn't charming, playful, or tender, but razor-sharp, dangerous, and protective. The man she loved wasn't just the boy from her past or the soft moments in the villa. He was the storm itself, and she was being drawn into its eye. The drive through Milan was tense. Every shadow, every reflection in the wet streets seemed like a potential threat. Yet in the back of her mind, Lena felt an undeniable thrill. For the first time, fear and excitement intertwined. A dangerous cocktail that reminded her why she had never truly stopped loving him. He glanced at her once, a fleeting smile touching his lips. "You don't have to understand it now," he said quietly. "Just trust me. I've never let anyone hurt you, and I won't start now." Her fingers tightened around his hand, the warmth a tether against the cold uncertainty of the streets outside. "I trust you," she whispered, her heart pounding. And in that shared glance, Lena knew, no matter how dangerous, how impossible, or how overwhelming the world around them became, their bond was unshakable. Love, even in the midst of chaos, was their strongest weapon. Outside, the city continued in oblivious motion. Inside the car, hearts raced, and two souls braced for the challenges ahead, together, unafraid, and slowly learning that love could survive even the deadliest storms. The villa was quiet again, but silence had never meant safety. Lena paced the sunlit lounge, her hands twisting the fabric of her pastel dress, mind racing. The events of the morning haunted her. The warning message, the tension in Lorenzo's every movement, and the chilling reminder that his world was never forgiving. Lorenzo watched her from the doorway, arms crossed, his expression a mixture of concern and steely resolve. He had always known the dangers lurking behind the polished walls of his life, but seeing her anxiety brought a rare vulnerability to the surface, one he rarely allowed himself to show. "You can't stay here thinking it will be safe," he said quietly, stepping closer. His gaze held hers, intense, unwavering. "They're watching. They know about you, about us," Lena's chest tightened. "I trusted you, and now it feels like danger follows us even into your home." He sighed, running a hand through his slick, dark hair. "I wanted to shield you from this, but the truth is, some things I cannot control. All I can do is protect you every moment, every step." Her eyes flickered to the window overlooking the gardens, the sunlight reflecting off the calm lake, an illusion of serenity that couldn't hide the threat that now shadowed their lives. "And what if it's not enough?" she whispered. Lorenzo knelt slightly, reaching for her hand, and the touch was electric, grounding, intimate, unspoken. "Then we fight, together. Nothing. Nothing in this world will separate us. Do you understand?" Her throat tightened, tears brimming. She wanted to be angry, to resist, to remind herself of logic, of safety. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw the unyielding promise that had always drawn her in, the same pull that had made her heart race years ago. "Yes," she whispered finally. "I understand. I trust you." A shadow moved outside the villa, subtle, almost imperceptible, and Lorenzo's eyes flicked toward it with lethal awareness. His hand tightened over hers. "They're close," he murmured. "I can feel it, but no one touches you. Not while I'm here." Lena's heart pounded, fear and exhilaration mixing into a strange, dizzying cocktail. Danger had never felt so real, so close, and yet never had she felt more alive. She realized with startling clarity that loving Lorenzo meant embracing the storm as much as the calm, walking with him into the shadows and trusting him to be the light. The day stretched on, each quiet moment carrying tension beneath its surface. Conversations were brief, laughter cautious, glances wary. But through it all, Lorenzo stayed close, protective yet gentle, a tether between fear and desire. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting the villa in long shadows, Lena rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her ear. "Whatever comes," he whispered, voice low and certain. "We face it together. always. And for the first time since the engagement party, Lena let herself believe that no matter how dangerous his world was, their love could survive it, unbroken, unshakable, and enduring. The villa's night was calm, too calm. Lena had settled in the lounge, a book in hand, but her eyes kept darting to the shadows outside. Every creak of the old floorboards, every whisper of wind through the gardens felt amplified, a reminder that Lorenzo's enemies were never far. She wasn't alone in her unease. Lorenzo moved through the rooms with quiet precision, eyes scanning every corner, every window, every potential threat. His presence was constant, a tether that kept her grounded while the weight of his world pressed down on them both. Suddenly, a sound, faint but deliberate, cut through the night. A window latch clicked. Lorenzo's head snapped toward the sound. In an instant, he was at her side, hand on her wrist, eyes blazing. "Stay behind me," he murmured, voice low but filled with steel. Her pulse raced, heart hammering. What is it?" "They're testing us," he said, moving toward the source with lethal calm. Each step precise, calculated. Every muscle in his body spoke of power and control. A predator in his domain. Lena followed, hesitant, but unable to tear her eyes from him. He was dangerous, intoxicating, and terrifying all at once. The man who had stolen her heart years ago and never returned it. As Lorenzo reached the window, he saw it, a shadow slipping just beyond the edge of the garden, silent and watchful. His hand rested on the concealed weapon at his belt, his gaze sharp, unwavering. "They're close," he muttered, then turned to her, softening his tone ever so slightly. "Stay inside, now." She nodded, swallowing hard, the fear in her chest mingling with the undeniable thrill of being in his world. "I trust you," she whispered. The next moments were a blur. The shadow retreated, and Lorenzo's sharp movements ensured no harm came near the villa. Within minutes, the tension eased, but the impact lingered. Lena's hands trembled as she stepped toward him once the danger had passed. "You saved me," she whispered, voice barely audible. "No one touches you," he said firmly, cupping her face with both hands. His thumb brushed a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "I promised you, remember? And I always keep my promises." Lena's chest tightened, emotions surging, relief, fear, love, and desire all mingling in one overwhelming pulse. She realized in that moment that she had never truly left him, and that whatever storms came, her heart belonged to him. He pulled her into his arms, slow and deliberate, the warmth of his embrace a shield against the darkness outside. "I won't let anything happen to you," he whispered again, voice soft but resolute. For the first time that night, Lena allowed herself to truly breathe. The danger hadn't passed, far from it. But in his arms, she felt a fragile kind of safety, a truth she had known all along. Love, even in a world of shadows, could shine bright enough to protect them both. And as they held each other, the villa seemed to exhale. A brief moment of peace before the next storm inevitably arrived. Morning light spilled through the villa's tall windows, painting the room in soft shades of gold and cream. Lena sat on the edge of the marble staircase, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns carved into the railing, mind still replaying last night's close call. Every nerve in her body had been on edge, yet in the midst of fear, she realized she had felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Trust. Lorenzo entered the room quietly, coffee in hand, his sharp eyes softening the moment they landed on her. There was no menace now, only a gentle authority that made her heart flutter and her stomach twist in anticipation. "You didn't sleep much," he said, voice calm but observant. "I couldn't," she admitted, looking down at her hands. "Too much happening." He knelt beside her, placing the cup on the railing. "I know," he said softly, voice low, "but you're safe here for now, and I'll make sure it stays that way." Lena's chest tightened. The words were familiar, almost like a melody she had long forgotten. She looked up at him, her eyes meeting his, and for the first time, she saw the man beyond the Mafia boss, the man who had cared for her all along, whose vulnerability lay hidden beneath layers of power and danger. I don't know how to thank you, she murmured. He smiled faintly, a rare, fleeting thing. You don't need to. Seeing you safe, it's enough. Her heart swelled at the simplicity of his words. She had spent years building walls around herself, convincing herself that love with Lorenzo was impossible, dangerous. But now, with the morning sun on his face, she realized that the bond they shared was stronger than fear. For hours, they moved through the villa together, cooking breakfast in the expansive kitchen, sharing quiet glances across the dining table, stealing moments of touch that lingered far longer than they should have. The laughter was soft, cautious, but genuine, and each shared glance carried an intimacy neither could deny. At one point, Lorenzo reached across to brush a stray strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering on her cheek. Lena's breath caught. In that small, tender gesture, the distance between them seemed to vanish. For a moment, the dangers of his world, the enemies, the violence, the chaos, faded into the background, leaving only the two of them. I never wanted to hurt you, he whispered, voice almost trembling. Not once, and now, I can't imagine ever being without you. Lena felt her defenses crumble. Fear and hesitation still lingered, but it was drowned out by the pull of her heart. The undeniable truth that she had never stopped loving him. Slowly, deliberately, she leaned into him, letting the warmth of his presence seep into her bones. Outside, the lake shimmered under the morning sun, calm and unyielding. Inside, trust and love deepened, weaving a fragile, unbreakable thread between them. One that would carry them through storms, danger, and the unknown challenges ahead. Night had fallen over the villa once more, the moon casting silver reflections across Lake Como. The villa itself was quiet, almost serene, but inside, the air between Lena and Lorenzo buzzed with unspoken words. Every glance, every subtle touch carried meaning, a slow burning tension neither of them could ignore. Lena sat on the plush armchair near the fireplace, wrapped in a soft throw. The warmth of the flames flickered across her face, highlighting the mixture of fear and longing in her eyes. Lorenzo stood a few feet away, hands casually resting at his sides, yet every inch of him radiated intensity, the power, the danger, the vulnerability he rarely let anyone see. I've been meaning to tell you something, he said finally, his voice low and steady, yet carrying an unmistakable tremor. Lena's heart skipped. Yes, she whispered, unsure if she wanted to hear the words or not. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them slowly, deliberately. His gaze locked on hers, deep brown eyes revealing more than he intended. I can't pretend anymore, he admitted. All these years, every moment I spent away from you, I never stopped thinking about you, never stopped wanting you. Lena, I love you. I've always loved you. The words struck her like a lightning bolt. Her breath caught, and her chest tightened as a surge of emotions, fear, joy, relief, longing, crashed through her. She had imagined this moment countless times, but hearing it, seeing it, felt impossibly real and overwhelming. I don't know what to say, she whispered, tears glimmering in her eyes. You don't have to say anything, he replied softly. Just know that every choice I've made, every risk I've taken, has always been for you. I've loved you silently, painfully, and now I can't hide it any longer. Lena felt her defenses crumble. She had spent so long protecting her heart, convincing herself that loving a mafia boss was impossible, dangerous. But now, in the quiet intimacy of the villa, in the warmth of the firelight, and the depth of his gaze, she realized the truth she had buried all along. I love you too, she breathed, voice trembling. I always have. A slow smile tugged at Lorenzo's lips, rare and genuine. He stepped closer, taking her hands in his, thumb brushing against her knuckles. Then we face everything together, he murmured. The danger, the chaos, it won't matter, because we have each other. For a long moment, they simply held each other's gaze, the tension and fear of his world suspended in the intimacy of their shared truth. Outside, the moon glinted on the lake, serene and eternal. Inside, hearts beat in unison, love declared, trust cemented, and a bond deepened beyond fear or danger. In that quiet villa, under the soft glow of firelight, Lina and Lorenzo understood a truth that neither time nor circumstance could deny. Their love was unstoppable, undeniable, and finally, confessed. The night air was heavy with tension. The villa, which had felt like a sanctuary for Lina and Lorenzo, suddenly seemed vulnerable, exposed. Lorenzo paced the grand hallway, every sense alert, muscles taut with anticipation. Something in the city whispered danger. Subtle, almost imperceptible, but he felt it in his bones. Lina followed quietly, hands clutched together, heart racing. "Lorenzo, what's happening?" she asked, voice low, almost frightened. He stopped, turning to face her. His sharp brown eyes softened briefly, revealing the man beneath the Mafia boss. The man who had always loved her, protected her, and now couldn't hide the worry etched across his face. "They've made a move," he said quietly. "A calculated one. They want to test me. Test us." Fear gripped Lina's chest. "Test us? What do you mean?" Lorenzo took a deep breath, stepping closer. "They're sending someone close. Someone who can infiltrate. Someone who can get to you if I'm not careful. That's why I need you inside, with me, no matter what." Her stomach dropped, but alongside fear was a surge of determination. "Then I'll stay with you. I don't care about danger. I trust you, Lorenzo." He studied her for a moment, awe and admiration flickering across his face. "You're stronger than you realize," he murmured, taking her hand. "And that's why I need you to be careful. Because if anything happens to you, I couldn't forgive myself." Outside, the city streets hummed quietly, a deceptive calm that made the villa seem almost fragile. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, sharp and deliberate, echoing through the grand halls. Lorenzo's gaze snapped toward the sound, every muscle in his body coiling like a spring. "Stay behind me," he whispered. Lina nodded, her heart hammering, pulse racing. He opened the door slowly, revealing a man in a tailored suit, flawless, professional, but the subtle menace in his eyes spoke volumes. A test, a threat, a shadow from Lorenzo's past, now manifesting at the threshold of their sanctuary. Lorenzo's hand brushed lightly over Lina's shoulder, anchoring her. "Do not move," he said, voice low, but each word carried authority, power, and an unspoken promise of protection. The man stepped forward, calm, confident, but Lorenzo's sharp eyes missed nothing. Every subtle movement, every shift in stance was analyzed, measured, catalogued. The first real threat had arrived, testing their bond, their trust, and their courage. Lina's breath trembled. Yet despite the danger, she felt an undeniable pull, a combination of fear and exhilaration. Being with Lorenzo meant embracing risk, yes, but also feeling the unshakable strength of his love surrounding her like a shield. The tension hung thick in the villa, shadows flickering against the walls. Yet in the midst of it, their hands remained intertwined, unbroken, a silent declaration. Whatever storm approached, they would face it together, unyielding and in love. Outside, the world continued unaware of the danger. Inside, hearts raced, breaths held, and the first real test of their love had begun. The villa's grand hallway was silent, the faint hum of the city outside a distant echo. Lorenzo's eyes never left the man who had dared cross the threshold, the intruder whose presence carried the sharp edge of threat. Every step the man took was measured, confident, but Lorenzo's instincts were sharper, honed over years of navigating danger. Lina stood behind him, her fingers entwined in his, trusting him completely, yet feeling the tight knot of fear in her chest. She had never witnessed him like this. Not the playful, tender man she knew, but the Mafia boss who commanded power effortlessly, whose very presence could bend people to his will. "You shouldn't have come here," Lorenzo said quietly, voice smooth but deadly, eyes locking on the man. His tone was calm, but every syllable carried weight, warning and promise entwined. The intruder smirked, arrogance evident. "I was sent to test you. See if the Mafia boss is as invincible as people say, he replied, voice slick, confident. And maybe get to the girl. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. You made one mistake, he said, stepping forward, every movement deliberate. You underestimated me, and my patience is gone. The intruder's confidence faltered slightly, sensing the lethal intent radiating from Lorenzo. But he refused to retreat. Lorenzo advanced, each step measured, precise, a predator in his domain. Lena held her breath, heart racing, but remained calm, knowing that she was safe in his presence. You don't get to touch her, Lorenzo continued, voice low, almost a growl. Anyone who tries will regret it. Trust me on that. The man hesitated, then lunged forward with a sudden, reckless attack. In a flash, Lorenzo intercepted, swift, controlled, precise. Within moments, the threat was neutralized, the intruder disarmed and subdued, lying on the marble floor. Lorenzo's gaze swept the room, checking every corner, every shadow. Only then did he turn to Lena, his expression softening, a rare vulnerability breaking through the intensity. He knelt, brushing a strand of hair from her face, thumb lingering on her cheek. You're safe, he whispered, voice low, steady, full of devotion. No one touches you. Not now, not ever. Lena exhaled, tears pricking her eyes. Relief, fear, and love collided in her chest. I knew you would protect me, she murmured. I promised you, he replied, standing and pulling her close. Their foreheads touched, the warmth of his body grounding her, making the danger of the outside world feel distant. And I always keep my promises. You're mine, and I'll fight for you every second, every moment. Outside, the rain had begun again, gentle against the villa windows, a soft contrast to the chaos that had just occurred. Inside, hearts beat in unison, tension dissolving into quiet relief. Love had survived the first real test of danger, and in that survival, Lena and Lorenzo's bond deepened, unbreakable and undeniable. For now, at least, the world outside could wait. Inside, they had each other, and that was enough. The morning sun filtered through the villa's tall windows, casting a soft glow across the marble floors. Lena moved carefully through the hall, still shaken from the night's events. Despite Lorenzo's calm assurances, her heart hadn't yet found steady rhythm. Danger was never far in his world, and the first real test had left its mark. Lorenzo watched her from the staircase, leaning casually yet alert. His dark eyes softened when they met hers, but the tension lingered, a shadow he carried with him even in moments of peace. You're awake early, he said, voice calm but carrying the underlying edge of someone always ready. I couldn't sleep, Lena admitted, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I keep thinking about last night. He stepped closer, closing the distance. You don't have to. I'm here. Always. His hand brushed hers lightly, a gentle anchor amid uncertainty. A soft knock at the villa door interrupted the quiet. Both of them tensed instantly. Lorenzo's sharp gaze swept the room. Stay behind me, he ordered quietly. Lena obeyed, heart racing. The door opened, revealing a man in his early 30s, impeccably dressed, with a calm, confident demeanor. His eyes held a quiet intelligence, a subtle strength, and a respect for the space he had entered. I'm Matteo, he said politely. I believe we have mutual interests. Lorenzo's brow furrowed. Mutual interests? His voice was sharp, protective. Explain yourself. Matteo's gaze shifted to Lena, respectful but direct. I've been watching your situation. I know the threats you face and I can help. I have information, resources, people you can trust. You don't have to face this alone. Lorenzo's lips pressed into a thin line, considering. Trust was not freely given in his world, especially to outsiders. But Matteo's calm, confident manner suggested competence, and more importantly, no hidden agenda, at least none that Lorenzo could detect. Lena stepped slightly forward, curiosity and relief mingling in her expression. Can we really trust him? She asked softly, glancing at Lorenzo. He turned to her, eyes softening. We'll see, he said quietly, then back to Matteo, voice firm. One wrong move and you won't get a second chance. Matteo nodded, unflinching. Understood. I'm here to help. Nothing more, nothing less. Lorenzo exhaled, tension easing slightly, though his protective aura remained unbroken. Then we proceed cautiously, he said. He took Lena's hand in his, thumb brushing over her knuckles. Together, you, me, and now. Cautiously, him. For Lena, the morning brought a strange mix of relief and hope. The world outside Lorenzo's villa was dangerous, unpredictable, and ruthless. But with him by her side, and now a cautious ally entering their circle, she felt a fragile sense of safety, and a deepening certainty that love could survive even in a world built on danger, power, and shadows. In the soft glow of the villa, hearts aligned and alliances formed, setting the stage for both danger and romance to intertwine ever more tightly. The villa had never felt more suffocating. The polished marble floors and grand chandeliers, usually symbols of elegance and safety, now seemed like a gilded cage. Lorenzo moved silently through the rooms, every sense alert, instincts honed for danger that Lena couldn't fully comprehend. Lena followed closely, clutching a soft throw around her shoulders. Her nerves were taut, every creak of the floorboards making her jump. She trusted Lorenzo completely, but the tension in the air reminded her that his world was never forgiving. We've been careful, Lorenzo murmured, voice low, eyes scanning the perimeter. But they're clever, always one step ahead. Someone's laying a trap, and it's closer than we think. Lena's heart pounded. A trap? Here? She whispered. He nodded, stepping closer and brushing a strand of hair from her face. Yes, but we're prepared, and we'll face it together. His hand lingered on hers, grounding her, offering a quiet strength she clung to. Hours passed in tense anticipation. Every knock, every shadow, every subtle shift outside the villa drew Lorenzo's attention. Lena tried to remain calm, but each passing moment amplified the fear she felt, not for herself, but for the man whose life was a constant balancing act between power and danger. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the courtyard. Lorenzo's head snapped toward the sound, muscles coiling instantly. "Stay inside," he commanded, voice sharp. Lena's pulse raced as she watched him disappear toward the source of the noise. Moments later, she saw him through the window, every step deliberate, every movement precise. A group of men had entered the estate, armed and confident, underestimating the Mafia boss who had built his empire on calculated power and ruthless control. She gasped as Lorenzo moved with lethal precision, disarming, striking, and dominating the intruders in a way that left no doubt he was the predator in his domain. Her fear melted into awe, her heart swelling with a mixture of love and desire. Every move he made was protection, every glance an unspoken promise. Finally, the intruders fled or were incapacitated, leaving the villa silent once again. Lorenzo returned to Lena's side, his expression softening as he reached for her hand. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly, voice low but full of care. I am," she whispered, tears brimming. "You're incredible." He smiled faintly, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "Only because you're here. You make me want to protect you, fight for you, and never let anything hurt you again." Her heart swelled, and she pressed against him, feeling the strength and warmth of his presence. In the aftermath of danger, the villa once again felt like home. But now, it was home built not just on luxury and power, but on trust, love, and an unbreakable bond. Outside, the city slept unaware of the storm that had just passed. Inside, hearts beat in rhythm, a slow-burning love thriving amid danger, ready to face whatever the next challenge would bring. The villa was quiet, the storm from earlier now a distant memory. Rain still pattered softly against the tall windows, but inside the atmosphere was warm, intimate, and charged with emotion. Lena sat on the edge of the grand sofa, her hands clasped in her lap, heart still racing from the earlier danger. Lorenzo moved toward her, slow and deliberate, his presence commanding yet tender. His sharp brown eyes softened as they met hers, revealing the man beneath the Mafia boss, the man who had always loved her, protected her, and now wanted nothing more than to give her peace. You were terrified today, he said quietly, kneeling in front of her. His hands rested gently on her knees, grounding her. I was, she admitted, voice trembling. But I trusted you. I knew you'd protect me. His lips curved into a faint, rare smile. Good, he murmured, because I can't imagine my life without you. Lena, you are the one thing I've always needed, even when I didn't realize it. And I promise you, I'll never let anything hurt you, not while I live. Lena's chest tightened, tears pricking her eyes. His words carried weight, sincerity, and a vulnerability she had only glimpsed in stolen moments. She reached for his hands, holding them against her cheeks. I love you, she whispered, the words trembling but true. I've never stopped, even when I tried. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers, warm and steady. Then we face everything together, he said softly. The danger, the threats, the world outside these walls. Nothing matters if we have each other. The room seemed to hold its breath as they lingered in that quiet space. The rain outside glistened against the windows, reflecting their intertwined hands and shared gaze. In the soft glow of the villa's lights, fear and chaos felt distant. Here, in this moment, they had found a fragile kind of eternity. A sanctuary built on trust, love, and the promise of forever. Lena smiled through her tears, pressing herself closer. I've never felt this safe, or this loved. You always will, Lorenzo whispered, voice firm, resolute. He brushed a strand of hair from her face and pressed his lips gently to her forehead. I swear it. You're mine, and I'm yours. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of his embrace and the sincerity in his voice wash over her. The world outside could wait. The enemies, the dangers, the chaos. None of it mattered in the quiet intimacy of their love. In that moment, the villa was more than a house. It was a home, a sanctuary, a place where hearts could beat freely, trust could flourish, and love, unstoppable, unyielding, and undeniable, could finally thrive. Together, they sat, wrapped in each other's arms, hearts in sync, ready for whatever challenges awaited them, knowing that as long as they had each other, they could face anything. The sun rose over Lake Como, spilling golden light across the villa and reflecting in the calm waters. The storm had passed completely, leaving only quiet, peaceful serenity, a stark contrast to the chaos of the past days. Lena stepped onto the balcony, the soft breeze brushing her hair, carrying the faint scent of rain and fresh flowers. She felt a lightness in her chest she hadn't experienced in years. For the first time, the danger that had always shadowed Lorenzo's world seemed distant, almost manageable. Lorenzo appeared behind her, strong and silent, but the intensity in his gaze softened as it met hers. He pulled her into his arms, and she leaned into him instinctively, heart beating against his chest. You made it through, he murmured, voice low, filled with both relief and awe. We made it. Yes, she whispered, eyes glimmering. Together. He pressed a gentle kiss to her temple, savoring the warmth, the moment. I promised you, he said softly. I'd protect you, fight for you, and love you, and I intend to keep that promise, every single day. Lena smiled through tears, the tension of the past weeks melting away. I never doubted you, she replied, voice firm but tender. I just wanted to be with you, safe or not. He laughed softly, a sound rare and genuine, wrapping his arms more tightly around her. Safe with me, he corrected, eyes shining. And from now on, you always will be. No one will ever take you from me. The villa, once a fortress against enemies and shadows, now felt like home, not because of walls or wealth, but because of them. The love that had blossomed slowly, against all odds, had become their anchor, their shield, their world. Lena looked up at him, heart swelling. So, what now? Now, Lorenzo said, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. We live. We love. We build a life together. No games, no fear, only us. And if anyone ever tries to test us again, they'll learn the same truth I have. Love wins. Always. He pulled her close for a final embrace, lips brushing hers in a soft, lingering kiss, one that sealed their promises, their hearts, and their future together. Lena felt every doubt, every fear dissolve, replaced by the unshakable certainty of their bond. As they stood together on the balcony, the villa bathed in morning light, the city and lake awakening beneath them, Lena realized something profound. For the first time, she truly belonged, not just in Lorenzo's world, but in his heart. And there, under the endless Italian sky, with love triumphant, she whispered softly, "We did it." Lorenzo smiled, resting his forehead against hers. Yes, together. Forever. The camera of the mind pans out. The villa serene, the lake sparkling, and two hearts united against all odds. Love had won. Danger had passed. And for Lena and Lorenzo, their story was only just beginning. The end. Don't forget to subscribe for more epic Mafia romance stories. And that's how love found its way. Even in a world of danger, power, and shadows, Lorenzo and Lena proved that hearts bound by trust and passion can overcome anything. If their story captured your heart, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And stay tuned for more tales of love, drama, and unstoppable passion. You won't want to miss what comes next.